I'd like to call the meeting to order tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and welcome everyone who's here tonight. Roll call, Mr. Lundberg. Yes.
Odie. Yep. Hagelin. Klatt. Yep. Schrader. Yep.
All right, with that, that takes us to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion I can take tonight?
Move to approve tonight's agenda with the omission of the executive session to be scheduled at the next board meeting.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. There were no conflict of interest disclosure or waiver requests tonight, and no community input. So that takes us next to administration reports, the walk to read presentation, and the elementary RTI literacy model.
Good evening. I'm going to share with you a little bit tonight about our Walk to Read program, and I've got the reading specialists here from all the elementary buildings and then the elementary principals to help me answer questions as we go through this. So first of all, Walk to Read is the main structure that we use to teach ELA in our early elementary. So tonight we're going to share with you why did we change RTI from our older model, the data sources that we use, possible schedules that we have, curriculum options, staffing that we have in those rooms, and then our data meetings. So first we'll start with why did we change RTI? First, it was the student population. Our population is changing and we need to make some changes to meet their needs. Closing the learning gap. We wanted to increase the rate of growth, especially with our strategic and intensive kids, to make sure that they're meeting grade level by the end of the year. And we also wanted to make sure that we're growing all of our students, no matter where they come to us at. We want to make sure that we're showing growth with them. And then it's also a great resource to show growth for our student learning objectives. Next, we'll go to our data sources. These data sources help us to determine the needs and skill deficits for each student. So you can see we have a wide variety of assessments that we give our kiddos to find out where their needs are and make sure that we can meet those needs. Next, we'll go to our possible schedules. So once we've assessed the students and put them into groups with students that have like skill deficits, these are some of the possible schedules that they have. And we've got a couple different options here that we have on slides, and that's because our buildings are all different. You know, different sizes, the amount of staffing that we have to support this walk to read varies. And so we want to show you just a couple different options of schedules that we have. Okay, next we'll go to the curriculum options. So once we've assessed the students, put them into groups based on their needs, these are the different options we have for curriculum. And we choose the curriculum based on the needs of the students. So one group might need one type of curriculum because of their skill deficit, but that same curriculum might not work for another group because they have other areas of needs in that group. So this gives us some options of different curriculums to use based on the kids' needs. Okay, then we'll go to the staffing in the room. So we'll show you some videos of the different rooms, and as the videos are playing, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the staffing in those rooms. And again, that varies depending on the building, the size of the building, again, staffing. So this is our above benchmark room. So these kiddos are above benchmark, are above grade level, and we want to make sure that we continue to enrich them, stretch them, and take them from where they're at and make sure they're growing as learners. So I'll let you kind of watch that video. You won't be able to hear much of the sound, but we have one classroom teacher usually in our above benchmark room is what we aim for. And again, that varies a little bit depending on the building. So you can see them all, they're working, and they're a little bit more independent at that above benchmark room. Next, we'll go to the benchmark room. So these kids are right at grade level. And within that benchmark room, we try to have a classroom teacher and at least one educational assistant in there. And again, they're a little bit more independent, so the group size can be a little bit larger. All right, we can go ahead and move to our strategic classroom. Now, strategic kiddos are just a little bit below grade level, so they just need a little bit of extra support to get up to grade level. Within that room, we try to have a classroom teacher, at least one Title I teacher, and an educational assistant. in there. So you can see a few more staff members because we need smaller groups and more hands on deck because they need that extra support. And we tried to take a video from each of the elementaries so you get a little bit of a feel how it's a little bit different in each building. All right, and then the last room is our intensive room. So these students are usually quite a bit below grade level. So you'll notice we have a classroom teacher in there, usually a reading specialist, a special education teacher, and then an EL teacher, or again, depending on the building, it might have to be an educational assistant just due to staffing in that building and amount of resources for that. So again, smaller groups, more support in there to help these kiddos and try to get them up to grade level. All right, and then we'll talk about our data meeting. So once we've assessed the kids, we put them into groups based on their skill deficits, and then we find an intervention that meets their needs, and then we continue to assess them on a regular basis, and then we make changes to their instruction depending on what our data shows. So if they're showing growth and doing well, we continue with that intervention. If it's not working, then we make changes. And with these smaller groups, we can make those more often so that we continue to see growth and making sure the kids are being successful with what they're working on. And then with that also, the data sources, we have data meetings, usually about every 8 weeks, and we use the DIBELS and the STAR Early Lit or STAR Reading, and that helps us determine that growth. So like I said, no matter where the students are coming in at, whether it's above grade level, below, or at grade level, we want to make sure they're showing growth. With our old RTI model, I think we focused more on the kids that were below grade level, and we weren't doing as much for those kids that were at or above. So we've made some nice adjustments, and we're ensuring we see growth across the board for all of our kiddos. So tonight I've shared with you the changes that we made to RTI, why we made those changes, data sources, possible schedules, curriculum options, our staffing, and then also the data meetings that we do to ensure we're seeing growth and we're doing the right things to help our kids be successful. Do you guys have any questions for me or the team about our Walk to Read?
I don't have a question, but a comment. I heard at the curriculum and technology meeting that because our program is so successful and because you're all doing such a marvelous job, that other school districts are coming to Brandon Valley to visit and spend days or half days learning how we do reading instruction so that they can go back to their school districts and model. And I think that the public needs to know that because that's extraordinary and you should all be applauded.
Thank you.
Great job.
I would echo that. I think it's really, I'm so appreciative personally of how much this district does for kids who are struggling and kids who need help. And as you say, for the kids that are already reading well and that need the opportunity to continue growing. So it's wonderful that you've done all that. I have a couple of questions. One is, have we considered using spelling assessment as a way to progress monitor and make sure that kids are making progress?
Sure. And right now, if you look back at some of our assessment options, one of those in there is our Sonde 33 word, and that is a spelling assessment. And right now, the way that it's written into the reading protocol, it is an option. So if we see kiddos that we have concerns about with spelling, that is an assessment that we can give them. I will tell you, as reading specialists, we've talked about, one concern is, okay, if they are showing a deficit in spelling, what interventions that we currently have, or what would we do differently if they, with the interventions that we have, a curriculum that we have that we're not already doing for those kiddos that might show an area of concern in spelling. So we do have some options in place right now for that. I don't know if anyone else has more to add about STEM.
I looked at that website you sent out, and that is an interesting that first study. That might provide a little bit.
The Words Their Way assessment, that would give you more options than the two versions of the Sunday 33. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's definitely an area that we're looking into and trying to figure out how can we better support kids with spelling.
Yeah, and because this district really does lead the way, I think, statewide in terms of what you do. And one of the things that came out of the dyslexia work group this summer was to really look more at spelling and encourage districts to look more at spelling as a way to identify kids who are maybe slipping through the cracks. Because some of the students who may have dyslexia find ways with all the hard work that you all do to help them read, but some of them can still be struggling with spelling. So checking that early would probably be something that would really I know you're always looking at those kinds of things. The other question is a two-part question. One is, I know we monitor, like, the kids that are in second grade this year, kids are in second grade next year, and kind of are always seeing improvement in how the program is meeting the needs of students. Do we follow kids as they move up into fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade to see if there are issues that are popping up later? And one of the reasons I ask that is we just approved some funding for Read 180 at the middle school, which is very necessary and will probably always be necessary to have some sort of supplemental programs for students who maybe come into our district in fourth grade or fifth grade, and we need to get them up to speed. But our own students, hopefully, as this program, which is so robust, kind of makes its way up into the higher grades, hopefully we won't need that as much. And are we monitoring that? Is there a way to kind of keep track of that and see how our students who we have from kindergarten, first grade on are doing, or if there are any needs? And one of the reasons I ask is that I know you all do miracles with what we give you. And one of the things that I think we really need to look at is, are we putting enough resources in place in these early grades to meet the needs of all these kids? Because it's far more cost effective to provide this type of help to a student in kindergarten or first grade than to wait until they get to fifth grade or sixth grade. There are all kinds of other issues that come along with that and other supports that are needed. So I guess it's a two-part question. Are we monitoring kids as they go up? And then what more do you need from us as a board and, as an administration in terms of resources? And that might not be something you can answer right now, but it's a question.
I would say with tracking of the data, we do, right now, our current third graders are the ones that we started the new Walk to Read with. So we are continuing to go, okay, how many of those kiddos that we've been serving since kindergarten, first grade are still in need of that intensive instruction? So we are continuing to watch those as they go, and we will continue to watch that. There's different reports we can pull from Dibbles and Renaissance that help us track that growth throughout. Anyone else want to add to that at all? And as far as resources that we need from the board, I think it probably varies from building to building, again, on the sizes and the amount of staffing, that they have. So I don't know if we can...
And I'm confident that no one's going to step up and say, we need, you guys are going to do what you need to do with what we give you. But the point is, I think, if you can identify gaps, if you can say, well, this building doesn't have Title I support, therefore we really could use a reading specialist, or we could split a reading specialist between these two buildings, or whatever it is. Trying to identify that would be very helpful, I think, in terms of making sure that we get those resources early enough in to really make a difference. So, any continued input would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Does anyone want to speak to their building? No?
We kind of addressed that in our 5 plan.
And the last thing I'll say, I know you're reading specialists, but I'm just trying to be a seed planter because I like to garden. When are we going to do this for math? Because we need to do this for math.
I think there's definitely an interest there in staff. They see how well Walk to Read is working for reading, and they are starting that themselves and finding ways to try to do the same type of structure for math. So I think we'll get there hopefully eventually. Yeah. Yep. Anything else?
I've just got a simple question. I commend you, all of you folks, for what you're doing, because you're doing a heck of a job. But my question is, not a question, but just help me out. Do you see advancements in all the kids in each one of these sections throughout the year? I mean, where they start and where they end up at the end of the year? Do you see a large improvement?
Absolutely, and like I said, we look at that data every 8 weeks to make sure that what we're doing, is the right fit for that student and that they're showing growth. And we have student growth percentiles that we can look at, and what that does is it compares them to their academic peers. So students that start at the same level as they are they reaching their full potential? So are they performing at the same level, if not higher, than their academic peers? So we are continually tracking that to make sure that we're meeting their needs and showing growth. Does
a kid advance or move into another, or does he stay with that group?
Nope. We have those meetings, yep. If there's growth and if they started in a smaller group and they've really accelerated growth, then by doing all of this, we can make those movements to another group, because we don't want them to just sit stagnant. We want to continue to grow them as learners. Yep.
Okay. Because I can't sit still. To give you a good example, when we started this back in first grade with our current third graders, we had 16 kids in the original group of intensive. Of those original 16 students that are now third grade students, only 3 of those 16 are in the intensive group. And all 3 of those students have been rightfully identified as special needs students. So there shows you some of our numbers. Now, wouldn't it be nice if I only had 3 kids in our intensive group in third grade? Well, voila, we have about 9 new students just moved into our district, and so knowing that we have the differences there, we have plenty of work to do, for the remainder of the year in intensive. But just to see from first grade to third grade, we've not only closed the gap, but we've given those kids an awesome opportunity at being successful right along with their peers.
Thank you very much. That takes us next to Superintendent's report. Superintendent Larson.
Yes, Madam Chair, just be real briefly. I want to just give you an update on the RBE principal position. We put some dates to the tentative timeline that we presented last month. It does close tomorrow. At this time, we have 22 applicants. We received 1 late this afternoon that I was made aware of. Round 1, March 9th. Round 2, March 23rd. And we will bring a recommendation forward to you on March 27th. I will bring a recommendation forward to you. Just real quickly, we've spoken about the revenue challenges potentially facing our state at our last meeting. Those revenue challenges are real, and what I can tell you is that the 1% that was originally proposed by the governor is not likely. What I'm hearing is flat funding to a 0.3% expectation, so anywhere in there, and then along the way, if we can avoid the conversation of cuts, that will certainly be very critical for education. I want to just note that the Conflict of Interest Bill, House Bill 1170, that Associated School Boards has worked so hard on with Mr. Mickelson, is advancing through, and I believe that is the Conflict of Interest Bill, or that piece of the Conflict of Interest Bill will go through, which is supported by the large school group and all of our member groups. And then I also want to just note the homeschool participation legislation that Member Klatt spoke about last month. Was defeated, and now another bill had come about, so they're in the process of working through that. And Senate Bill 177 is still alive from what I know, unless something changed just today. So we will continue to work with our folks and monitor that. 2 things, just want to give you a quick update on the future district initiatives that we'd previously spoken about. The Links Way, working with our administration, we've developed that. I've also met with every one of our student councils, and that's been a true joy, and I appreciate the ability to work with our student councils. They've all taken action and approved supporting the Linksway, so the Linksway will be made possible for us next fall through the support of our student councils. So that's exciting. There's more to come. We don't want to tell you too much because we're trying to keep it under wraps so it can be exciting next fall when we roll it out. And then also, Union Links, we're in the process of gathering our resources to make that initiative possible. That's scheduled for rollout winter of 2018. So just a couple items on that. Also, district-wide strategic planning. Our first step in that will be the creation of our vision. When I say our vision, I mean we believe all Brandon Valley graduates will and I will charge the school board with that task and that homework. So I would ask you, I'm not formally giving you the assignment yet, but I would ask you to think about that. If I was to ask you that to define what you believe all Brandon Valley graduates should be, give it some thought, because that assignment is coming in the near future. Also here this spring, we'll conduct data collection, strengths, areas for improvement from parents, students, and patrons. That ultimately leads to the development of goals, action items to achieve those goals, and then a continuous review. We'll put our district-wide strategic plan on a 3-year cycle, so it won't get completely reviewed and revamped. 3 years from adoption is when we'll do that, but we'll continuously review and reflect on our goals and report out on those goals. I also just want to make a quick note regarding our middle school construction project. Bid specs are out. They've garnered a lot of interest, and we're excited about that. We'll be opening sealed bids on March 9th, and then those bids will be brought to the Board of Education on March 13th at our regular Board of Education meeting. That's all I have, Madam President. I certainly entertain any questions you may have.
Senate Bill 177 was killed on February 21st.
Okay, there's a new one then. Hold on.
Senate Bill 177 was the new version of House Bill 1123.
Okay. I apologize. Diana Miller, our lobbyist, had sent out an email on Friday the 24th, said that we needed to oppose. So if that one's gone, very good. Sorry about that.
Anyone else, any questions for Superintendent Larson tonight? If not, thank you very much, Superintendent Larson, for your report. There is no board policy tonight, so that takes us to general business. Item number 1, to approve the Brandon Valley District Summer Feeding Pilot Program at BE Cafeteria from May 30th to July 28th.
Yes, Madam Chair. So what we have here is a district, a pilot program for summer feeding. It's ultimately summer feeding for all children ages 0 to 18 can come to the Brandon Elementary and eat a lunch for free. Our current numbers, or the current prediction is that there will be a break even to a slight gain for the district overall. We carefully considered the project and the proposal, and after careful consideration, I'll bring forward to you the recommendation of adopting the summer feeding pilot program for 1 year, and then we will reevaluate at the end of this year, or at the end of this summer, to determine whether it's something we want to continue to do moving forward. So it is my recommendation to approve the summer feeding pilot program at Brandon Elementary, and would entertain any questions that you have.
I just got a question. Is there any, more curious, districts in the area participating in that program? Are there other districts, Sioux Falls, Harrisburg, Bell Rapids, that maybe have adopted this by chance, or?
I can speak to Yankton, is the program, runs a summer feeding program, and that is the district that I had the closest communications to regarding how it worked for them, because they're similar in size, et cetera. So Yankton is currently engaged. I can't speak specifically to any other districts at this point, but Yankton is.
There have been articles in the Argus Leader about the Sioux Falls School District running this program district-wide. There have been several articles. I'm not too sure they didn't run a series about it, because I've read 3 or 4 different articles.
Just trying to get a gauge how popular it is. Yeah, so thank you.
Where does the Where does the funding for this come from?
So the funding ultimately comes from the feds. It's a federal program. We're reimbursed a little over $3.75, something to that effect, for each meal served. So when Director Anderson calculated the needed hours worked from personnel and then the number of meals projected to serve based off of 100, that's where we got that break-even / slight gain. And I actually asked Director Anderson if she would be willing to come later in a couple months, once they've attended mandatory webinars and some of those things, mandatory trainings, come and actually present all of the details of the program. But it's federally funded.
So just one follow-up. So it's interesting that there is no requirement for financial need or anything, and do they just count the students that show up and then get reimbursed based on how many students come to eat each day?
Sure, great question. There is actually a requirement for need. It's based off of census data, and that census data, so the feds ultimately contacted our child nutrition and said, you're site eligible at this location within your district from last census. So that's how we are identified, and then once you're identified, they make it known to you, and then you have the ability to move forward. So that would...
So there's not a cap as far as number of kids that this will feed? There is a cap or is not a cap?
No.
Okay.
Any child age 0 to 18 that walks through the door gets a hot lunch.
And where will this be at? Robert Bennis?
Brandon Elementary.
Elementary.
Yep.
I have always been a proponent of feeding hungry kids. Remember when we went to the national workshop, and I went to, one of the first seminars I went to was where the presenter was a school district out east, and they feed kids year-round. And I had said to Sue, why can't we do that? That is so exciting. So I'm thrilled that the federal government has identified that we're at the level that we would need to be able to offer this. To me, this is a no-brainer, and I move to approve.
A second, if we're ready.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. That takes us to personnel items number 1 through 5. I would entertain a motion to approve those as presented.
So move.
Second. There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Under personnel, number 6 and 7 are information only. That takes us to communication. On the Board of Education, there are 5 thank you notes there for you to review. And that takes us to board reports, the formal reports. Does anyone have a formal report tonight at all? I just want to wish Joan Freevick with Teach Well Solutions a happy 30th anniversary. She's starting her 30th year there. So if you get a chance to congratulate her, that would be great. And we'll be doing a ribbon cutting, I believe, on March 23rd. I may have my date completely wrong, so we'll be doing a ribbon cutting sometime in March. If nothing else, that takes us to the end of our agenda, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much for coming.